Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast brought to you by our friends over at Briar-Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, there's nobody better in the business to work with than the good people over at Briar-Greaves Insurance. For more information, visit briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call, 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. It is a Monday edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. Had to do a little bit of a pivot. I know we were going to have Larry Foote on the show, but some things were out of our hands, and unfortunately, we cannot have Larry Foote on the show today. So we are adjusting. We are very, very close to training camp.
We're calling an audible.
Yeah, we're calling an audible, much like when Baker Mayfield gets two plays at the line of scrimmage. He'll can the first one and go to the second. That's what we're doing. So we are beginning our training camp preview because the Bucs will be hitting the field and practicing next week. So we're getting very, very close. So we're going to preview positions pretty much each and every single day on the Pewter Report podcast, starting out with quarterbacks and running backs. We'll look at the rooms, we'll look at the players, talk about expectations and all of that good stuff on today's show. Plus, the return of Roll Call at 420. We've seen the comments. We've seen people asking. It is back this Monday, so very excited for Roll Call as well. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at pewterreport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. Hello, Scott. How we doing?
Doing good. We have the return of Roll Call. We've got plenty of training camp previews to get into today. We're looking forward to chatting with you Bucs fans as we do at 4 o'clock every day. And next week, we've got Bucs training camp happening, which is super cool. The rookies report on Monday. There's no access because that's mostly classroom work. And then Tuesday, the veterans report. Wednesday, the players hit the field. So it has been a very fast and furious summer. It seems like yesterday when we were at Bucs minicamp.
It went by so insanely quick. I'm actually surprised that it's coming up next week because, it feels like it was yesterday. We were watching, Hassan Reddick make his first practice with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and getting to talk to Baker and hear Mike Evans sing the praises of Emeka Egbuka and stuff like that. And we blink and now we're a week away. So, very excited for training camp to get going. I know last week we talked about the Tristan Wirfs news and him not being available, but I still think there's going to be a lot of greatness coming from this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. And I think a brief speed bump with Tristan Wirfs won't ultimately derail the big plans that they have this year.
I'm with you. And just to kind of clarify, because we did promote the show with Larry Foote for today's show. And we actually had Josh Grizzard lined up for you on Thursday, folks. And it's not really the Bucs PR department's fault by any means whatsoever. They're just enforcing a policy, but apparently a policy was put in place in the spring that I think the assistants forgot about during the summer. And we had reached out to Larry Foote, who was very excited to do the show. He actually texted me Friday night, like 9:30. He's like, let's do Monday. I'm like, all right, cool, coach, let's do it. Josh Grizzard got back to me today and was scheduled for Thursday. I checked with the Bucs PR department, as we always do, and they said, guys, we'd love for you to have them on the podcast. We do have a policy we have to adhere to, that we agreed to as an organization, that the players have to report to training camp, which is next Tuesday. And then that is like kind of the official end of the offseason, because what they do is they limit the availability of assistant coaches during the offseason. That's for the coaches' benefit. That's just a standard policy. So they want to adhere to that. So if we had Larry Foote on today, there might be other media outlets screaming, wait a minute, hold on here. We didn't think we could have assistants, do this and that during the offseason. But so we're going to abide by the rules, and that's fine. Both Larry Foote and Josh Grizzard have agreed to come on early in training camp. So we might even have some primetime podcasts with those coaches. So keep an eye out. We might have a 24-hour notice, and we'll have Larry Foote on or Josh Grizzard. Probably not next week, but maybe that week after. So stay tuned. Both of those coaches and actually coordinators have agreed to come on, and we're going to have them on. We just got to wait a week or two. So
it's not goodbye. It's see you later.
That's right.
And that's the case. And no hard feelings or anything with the Bucs PR staff. They are super accommodating to us all of the time. It just kind of the nature of the business. That's all right. like we said, we're going to, call an audible, come up with different topics, what we do on the show, and it'll just make it that much sweeter when Larry Foote and Josh Grizzard do make their appearance. But we did want to clarify for everybody that may have seen some of the promoting that we were doing. So fear not, they will be on eventually.
That's right. And we might even have more to talk about because we'll have some practices in the bag already to go over, and we'll probably have more insight from both of those guys in terms of what's actually happening rather than like previewing what could happen in training camp. And so we'll get assessments of different players from both Foote and Grizzard in due time. Matt, you mentioned how this is like one of the fastest times, right? This mini camp to training camp, it just goes by so fast. You know what else is fast? Our YouTube channel is growing rapidly fast. We're almost at 20,000 followers, subscribers, if you will, on our YouTube channel, Pewter Report TV. So if you're watching this video, hit the subscribe button, go over to Pewter Report TV, hit subscribe. It's free, and it's just going to help us get to 20,000 that much faster. We're over 19,600, so we have less than 400 subscribers to go before hitting that milestone. We're looking forward to that. Thank you all if you have subscribed. If not, please hit the subscribe button. And as you said, Matt, in about 12 minutes, we're doing roll call today, which would be the return roll call. Haven't done it in a few weeks, but we got one today for you, so that's pretty cool. As well as some really interesting news. I came out with a Bucs mailbag this morning, and I checked with some Bucs sources. PUP, should Tristan Wirfs go on PUP? And sounds like he will. That's coming off of this particular knee surgery. That seems to be the case where Tristan is going to be going on not injured reserve, but for PUP. PUP and short-term injured reserve used to be 4 games, but a new NFL rule change has actually limited it to 3 games. So there is an opportunity for Tristan Wirfs, should he be healthy enough to return. It wouldn't be an automatic 4-week or 4-game period of time where he's out. It would just be 3 weeks, right? So here's a couple things to keep in mind. Tristan Wirfs injured his right knee, against the 49ers. Justin Skule came in, played the rest of that game. The Bucs had a bye week the next week. Tristan Wirfs missed that following game against the New York Giants, but then suited up for every game after that, the remaining 7 weeks of the season, including the playoff game against Washington. And you know what? The team, they thought that this would be something that would respond to rest and rehab, and it just didn't. And it got down to that drop-dead date where the knee didn't come around like everybody had hoped it would. The front office, the coaching staff, the training staff, Tristan himself. And so they decided to do the surgery. It's not ideal, but at the same time, as I was told over the weekend, surgery doesn't always go as planned either. And surgery is not the first option. It's typically the last option if necessary. A lot of football injuries, they do require surgery, right? But if you can avoid it, just because accidents can happen, you can have something go wrong on a very simple surgery sometimes, and that could end up being catastrophic. So most people don't like to get cut on unless they have to. And so this was something, and remember, this was not deemed a significant knee injury. Tristan actually played the rest of the season, had a Pro Bowl, all-pro season, and then was out there too. When we saw Tristan in the big bulky knee brace, he was actually moving around pretty well. This is not a situation where he's on crutches or had to go through anything like that. This was a minor knee injury that had a minor knee surgery just to get this thing back to 100%. And it's unfortunate. But it looks like Charlie Heck will be that guy that is going to be replacing Tristan Wirfs. We've kind of written extensively about him. Josh Capo has an article dropping on Pewter Report tomorrow. Adam Slavon had one today. I wrote about Jedrick Wills, the former Cleveland Browns left tackle. And I don't cover the Browns, and maybe I should have done some more research. It's been pointed out to me that Jedrick Wills, actually in June last month, said he is probably going to be skipping the 2025 season, sitting out. So it will be a situation where he's not going to be available. He's going to rest his knee and get right so he can re-enter 2026 free agency and latch on with another team. So Jedrick Wills, I know people have thrown that name out. I have too. He's not an option really for the Buccaneers to sign him as a replacement because he still not fully recovered from his knee injury. Yeah. He's going to sit out this season.
Yeah, and people wanted to put Wills with the Bucs because he used to be teammates with Baker Mayfield. Right. And Wills famously was in that same draft class with Tristan Wirfs when, the big four offensive tackles went. And Tristan Wirfs was the fourth offensive tackle taken. What a steal for the Buccaneers.
That's right.
But I always thought, because he had that MCL injury the season prior, and I still felt because Wills was playing at a pretty good level despite the Browns just not being a really good football team during his career, really any of our lives.
Yeah.
But he was in a place or a caliber of a player where it wouldn't make sense for him to sign on with the team and latch on to start 3 games, 4 games, 5 games, whatever, however long Tristan Wirfs would be out for. And then be on the bench where you can kind of still get maybe not as big of a payday if he was fully healthy and an offensive tackle hitting free agency, but now can still get paid a little bit more than just like a guy that's fighting for a depth spot and a roster spot where he can get big time offensive tackle money. So it makes sense from a Will standpoint, no doubt about it. It kind of just builds the hype a little bit more when he does go and hit free agency. And, as for Tristan Wirfs, it's good news with the PUP thing that it's one less game. But I also really hope, and I implore Tristan Wirfs as well. I mean, he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. But I just don't want to see him rushed back. And I'm curious, last year, he only missed 1 game, but, maybe he should have missed 2, whatever the case may be. And again, we can all just kind of look back and say, oh, they should have done this and they should have done that. But he's one of the most important figures in Bucs history, not just like players, not just good players on the team right now. He's so important to the history of this team, having won a Super Bowl with this team, the current present of this team, and he's also the future of this team because he's still very young and yet has a big contract ahead of him, just signed it last offseason. So the last thing you want to see is him rush back too early, tweak something else. I hope he takes his time. I hope he's ready to go after 3 games or whatever the case may be. But I am totally fine if Tristan Wirfs misses the first 5 games. It doesn't come back until October, whatever the case may be. Because him at full strength, fully healthy, to me, is more important than rushing back to get back for, the first quarter of the season when we know that there is such a long way to go. Yeah. And, when he comes back, once he finally gets in a groove, nobody in November, depending on what the record is of Tampa Bay, nobody in November is going to care that Tristan Wirfs missed the first 3, 4, however many games. As long as they're winning, as long as he's playing at a high level. So patience is tough in the NFL. We all want immediate results, but I really hope that the Bucs don't try to rush Tristan Wirfs. Even if there is some struggling on the left side, I think Jason Light may have a couple of other options in free agency, or, we talked about how great Kevin Carberry is. So I want to keep that in mind as we go forward with the Tristan Wirfs watch, if you will.
Yep. I agree. Well said. And again, it's like I tried to, I don't want to inject hopium into anybody, right? I don't want to deal in hopium, but I do deal in realism. I'm not really a pessimist. I'm not really an optimist. I'm a realist as much as I can be. And I'm just going to say there's 11 guys out there on the field. Charlie Heck will be one of them.
Yes.
And you're going to like what Josh Capo has to say in his article tomorrow morning at 7:30 on pewterreport.com. He did an extensive look at Charlie Heck, as well as what happened with the Buccaneers offense when Justin Skule was in the game for that 49ers game and when he started for Tristan Wirfs in the Giants. Some really interesting revelations that I think Josh Grizzard is going to be very interesting to read as well. And not that he needs any advice from Pewter Report on what to do with this offense, but I think he's actually going to implement some of these things because it's what Liam Cohen did last year when Tristan Wirfs was out for the rest of the 49ers game and for that Giants game. And so make sure you stay tuned to pewterreport.com for that article tomorrow. The Buccaneers were 4-2 in the 6 games without a starting offensive lineman last year. That includes 5 starts by Justin Skule, 4 at right tackle, 1 at left tackle, and of course, Robert Hainsey filling in for Graham Barton in New Orleans for 1 game as well. Why? Because Kevin Carberry knows what he's doing, folks. So there's a lot of ways that they can navigate not having Tristan Wirfs. It is not a lost cause. Now, if Baker Mayfield gets crushed and injured, sure. But let's try to think positively here. That didn't happen when school was in there. It didn't happen when Robert Hainsey was in there at center. So let's give a little time here. Remember, Justin School found out he was going to be starting on Thursday ahead of that Aiden Hutchinson matchup in Detroit because Luke Gedeke opted out of practice during that Wednesday after the Commanders game. And he's like, wait a minute, my head is ringing. I'm not feeling good. So Charlie Heck has the benefit of having the entire offseason in the starting lineup while Wirfs is doing the rehab. Then he'll have roughly 8 to 9 weeks worth of starting next to Ben Bredesen, blocking for Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, Baker Mayfield, getting the tutelage and the coaching from Brian Picucci and Kevin Carberry to have a way longer of an on-ramp to start at left tackle than School did at right tackle last year for Gedeke. So let's have a little faith in the time and the process in this coaching staff. And like I said, I think you're going to like what you read about Charlie Heck tomorrow from Josh Capel.
Yeah, those are all valid points, things that we've talked about with Kevin Carberry. And yes, the fact that the Bucs aren't going to be surprised week one when Tristan Wirfs isn't out there. They're ready for this reality right about now. And another thing is Baker Mayfield is a tough dude. He's a tough son of a gun, if you will. And he's taken some hard hits in his career, some hard hits with the Bucs. He welcomes those hits sometimes. So normally when he's the one running and kind of laying the shoulder, but man, I still remember that hit he took. This is when Dave Canales was the offensive coordinator. So 2 seasons ago in New Orleans, he threw a touchdown pass to Cade Otton, but it was like a running throw.
That's right, yeah.
And Baker got smoked after in the face as well. Yeah. I'll never forget Brad Isaac was screaming on the sideline. He was so angry about what went on there. And, Baker took some tough hits as well last season. So you obviously don't want him to get hit. You want to protect him as much as you possibly can. But what I am saying is that if Charlie Heck or the left side does get beat a little bit here and there, you don't want to worry and kind of wince every single time Baker Mayfield ends up getting hit because he usually gets up. I mean, I know he missed a couple of snaps against the Colts and Kyle Trask came in, but he's been a tough dude ever since he's been tough his whole career, but ever since he's been in Tampa. So he's going to be ready. He's going to move around in that pocket. He's going to run when he needs to. So, have faith in Baker Mayfield.
He also has got some more weapons to throw to. And when you've got really elite talent that can get open really quickly, then you get rid of the ball pretty quickly. And before we dive into today's topic of the running back and the quarterback preview, we're going to preview a couple of things we have coming up this week. Tomorrow at 4:00, we're going to preview wide receiver, tight end, and outside linebacker Bucs training camp. Of course, that's Emeka Egbuka. That's Tampa Bay's first-round pick. He'll be seeing quite a bit of action at the start of the season, whether or not Chris Godwin is ready to go in week one or not. So the Buccaneers spent their first-round pick wisely, as it turns out. That's Emeka Egbuka. We're going to be talking a lot about the remaining positions on the Bucs offense tomorrow at 4:00 on Pewter Report TV. On Wednesday, we're going to switch to the defensive side. We're going to look at defensive tackle, outside linebacker, inside linebacker. Can Kalijah Kancey stay healthy for an entire training camp? Can he play in the preseason games for a change, right? More importantly, can he be ready for week one and play 17 games? That's what we want to find out. We're going to be talking about that on Wednesday at 4:00. And then Thursday, we've got another Pewter Report preview for you at Bucs training camp. Cornerbacks, special teams, as well as safeties. We're going to look at the back end of the Bucs defense and take a look at the punter and kicker battles as well. The kicker position, pretty much solved. When you've got a kicker who's clicking at around 94% and Chase McLaughlin, no need to have a battle there. But there will be a battle at the punter position as Tampa Bay rolled through 3 punters last year, and they're going to try to settle on 1 for the entire season this year. But it is that time, folks. We've had a couple of weeks off, but we're back to it. It is the thing we love to do. It involves you. It's called
Roll Call. That's right. It is back and better than ever. Roll Call is returning this Monday. We love interacting with our fans of this podcast as much as we possibly can. And typically when Scott and I are on together, but we had done some traveling and things like that. So that's why I went away for a little bit, but it's back. And what we love to do is this thing called Roll Call. Most Mondays at 4:20 when we're in our studios, because we have awesome fans all over the place. We want to know where you are watching from. So if you want to put on the screen where you're watching the show from. We'll put it up. Well, if you put it in the chat, we'll put it up on the screen and give a couple of personal shout outs as well, because we have awesome fans, not just in Florida or Tampa or the United States. We got some great international fans as well. So we'll give a couple of shout outs as well. And what I want to talk about today on Roll Call, I know we've talked a lot about Tristan Wirfs. We're going to talk about this 2025 season, but there was some news on Saturday coming from a former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, and that was defensive tackle Ndamukong Suh officially announced his retirement from the game of football. Now, Suh had not played since 2022, but had not officially retired either. And I want to congratulate Ndamukong Suh on a fantastic career. I think he's a Hall of Famer. He'll be eligible in 5 seasons from now. But obviously, I want to kind of identify what Ndamukong Suh meant to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when he came to this team in 2019. He's played 13 years in the NFL, and that included 3 with the Bucs. He started in all 49 regular season games, recording 112 tackles, 14 and a half sacks, 1 forced fumble, 5 fumble recoveries, and 2 defensive touchdowns, both in the 2019 season. And a funny thing about that, too, is the first 2 road games I ever covered for the Bucs at Pewter Report was that 2019 season. The first one was when they played against the Rams out in California. It was before the Rams got the new stadium. And Ndamukong Suh had a touchdown on that one. And I also covered when the Bucs played the Falcons in Atlanta. That one was famous because Vita Vea had an offensive touchdown, but Ndamukong Suh also had another defensive touchdown. So both road games I covered that year, Ndamukong Suh scored a touchdown. But he played in 6 playoff games, recorded 18 tackles, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. And also he was very important in helping the Bucs win the Super Bowl during the 2020 season. And I know Suh played other places, obviously started his career with Detroit, spent 3 seasons in Miami, 1 year with the Rams, and then after those 3 years with the Bucs, finished up with the Eagles. He played in 3 Super Bowls. The only one he won, though, was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I want to give a shout out to Suh because he was so important to this team and so vital at a time where I think sometimes Ndamukong Suh gets looked over when it comes to the turnaround of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Scott, I think, made a great point when we were talking off air that, you know, it kind of started with JPP coming to this team in 2018. But Ndamukong Suh arrived in 2019. There was a lot of buzz and conversation about it because he replaced Gerald McCoy, but he wore 93, which was Gerald McCoy's number as well. But he was so important to helping establish that culture. Now, obviously, at the same time, Bruce Arians came around and Todd Bowles. And then Tom Brady was the one in 2020 and Gronk that really put the Bucs in the turbocharge and helped them win that Super Bowl as well. But Ndamukong Suh was such an important mentor to Vita Vea and to a lot of guys on the defensive line and the defense in total. He gave great financial advice. He actually has a finance podcast now that Vita Vea was on. I think Ndamukong Suh was actually pretty tight and very helpful. He's not on the team anymore, but with Sean Murphy Bunting and giving him financial advice. So I think Ndamukong Suh deserves a lot of credit for, one, I think kind of reshaping his image as well, because a lot of people thought he was this guy that, I mean, you know, he did have a little bit of a past of stomping on players.
He was an a-hole, right? He really wasn't.
And I got to be honest with you. I remember the first time he came to the Bucs, I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to ask him a question. He's going to rip my head off. And it could not be further from the truth. He's the quintessential guy that flips the switch when it's game time. He will rip your head off.
That's true.
When you're in the locker room or, you know, off the field type of stuff, he's very thoughtful. I thought he gave great answers when he would do press conferences. And he's kind of a larger than life figure. So I think he was very important to the turnaround of the Bucs when he got here in 2019 and how important he was in 2020. And no team, he was okay at the pass rush, no doubt about it, but no team could run on that Bucs defensive line with Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea in the middle. So I just want to say congratulations to Ndamukong Suh on a great career, a Hall of Fame career, a Super Bowl champion with the Bucs, and may have only been 3 seasons, but it was a memorable time with Ndamukong Suh, also known as Big Girl, as Vita Vea would call him, but a great time with Ndamukong Suh when he was on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well said, Matt. And the other thing, too, is you mentioned that run defense. That was something he really took a lot of pride in. He could get after the quarterback, too, but he really was adamant and passionate about that run defense. And that's something that was really endearing to Todd Bowles. And it started in practice, even in the OTAs. And you know how typically, and you'll see it at training camp too, the running back kind of goes through the hole and you see guys kind of come up like this, and there's no tackling. They don't really even wrap up. Well, when Suh was there, he didn't like the running back, kind of like, because you're playing tag on defense, right? Against your own players. He didn't like the running backs running 30 yards into the end zone and stuff. And he would kind of grab the running backs and hold them. And the coaches would be like, let him go. And then you started to see other Buccaneer defenders kind of do the same thing. So you didn't have this free pass for the running backs when they got through the hole. And Suh wanted and demanded the Buccaneer run defense be elite, because if they could do that, then guys like JPP and guys like Shaq and even Vita Vea and Suh himself, they could hunt on 3rd and long. But you got to set up those passing downs, those obvious passing downs, by stopping the run on 1st and 2nd down, and then you can have a lot of fun on 3rd down.
I think one of the biggest compliments to that Bucs run-stopping defense was actually the year after they had won the Super Bowl. So we're talking about the 2021 season, and when you're the Super Bowl champs, you open up the season, and the Bucs hosted the first game of the year at home against the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
And I remember the Cowboys barely even attempted to run the football. They went, and their running game was short 3 to 4 yard passes because they knew they could not run on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think that was the ultimate compliment. And more teams started to do it as well, because they just knew that they weren't going to run it. So screw it. Our running game is going to be a 4 yard pass or whatever the case may be. I think that's just such a compliment to how dominant that run stopping defense was. And Ndamukong Suh was very, very important to it. Yeah. And I think he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm curious. I guess in the Hall of Fame, you can kind of represent every team, but I'm curious, like, if he would go in as a Lion or what team he would go in.
Yeah.
I guess Detroit maybe, but.
Well, he won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, so maybe he chooses them. And he was at the Super Bowl with the Rams, but then with the Bucs, he got the ring. So we shall see. That's a great point, Matt. I haven't thought about that. It will be very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because he built his reputation with the Lions. He was there for the longest time, because he was only there 3 years with Miami and only 3 with the with the
But
Bucs
then they didn't
well.
re-sign him, right? Didn't they let him go to Miami, or did they trade him to Miami? I forget how that went.
I thought he signed with Miami.
Okay,
yeah, and then he was on the Rams for 1 year in 2018, and then went to the Bucs. So and then ended with the Eagles.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. He was an absolute dominant force for whoever he played with, and almost like the dominant force you're going to have at happy hour is Walk-Ons, because they've got some fantastic happy hour specials. My wife Ash and I were just there the other day, enjoying some of their happy hour menu, because it's vast, it's great, and you can enjoy it all day on Monday from 3 p.m. to close. And then you can enjoy it all day on Tuesday from open to close. So if you can't make it to Walk-Ons tonight to enjoy that happy hour all the way until close, you can do it tomorrow. And you can also enjoy $5 Tito's on Tuesdays too. That's every Tuesday. Wednesday and Thursday, they have 2 sets of happy hours from 3 to 6 and 9 to close. So a lot of great opportunities for you to enjoy some fantastic food and drinks at some fantastic prices. $3.99 domestic pints, $5 premium house pours or happy hour wines. $5.49 will get you the 22-ounce domestic drafts. That's what I enjoyed. $4 with the hush puppies and onion rings. $7 get you the boom boom shrimp, the half waffle cheese fries. It's a half an order. It's a big order, folks. I'm just telling you. And the spinach and artichoke dip, which I absolutely love. It's one of our favorites. $8 will get you the boneless wings or the cheeseburger sliders. You can make a meal just on the happy hour menu, folks. Eat like a winner, drink like a champ. Get to Walk-Ons, 3 locations in the Tampa Bay area to serve you: Wesley Chapel, Midtown Tampa, and Lakeland.
Shout out to Walk-Ons. Always delicious, always fantastic. Cannot recommend it enough.
We had some great participation today in our roll call, and they returned to roll call. A little bit of international flair. It's a little bit of West Coast flair and some East Coast flair. So let's dive into it, shall we? Want to give a shout out to Money Making Mitch from Atlanta, Georgia. And I love this because he stole our line, Matt. The Falcons are falconing, guys. So let's have them keep falconing, because that's what they do best. They choke. And we'd love to see that happen again. Sorry, Raheem, but that's just the way it is. with our audience. Sean Drippin Buck Brown is from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. We're going to be up in Pennsylvania. We're just getting ready to do our travel arrangements to go to Pittsburgh to cover the joint practices. The Buccaneers will have a joint practice with the Steelers in the Acrisure Stadium. And that's going to be on Thursday, August 14th. They're going to have a solo practice just within the team itself without the Steelers at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh on the 13th. So Pewter Report's going to be on hand. We'll have some podcasts for you as well. And so make sure you stay tuned to that down the road in training camp. But I'm not sure how far away Bethlehem, Pennsylvania is, but we'll be in the state watching the Buccaneers practice. Ryan T. representing Florida down the road in Apopka, right by Sapp's old high school, and Jalen Carter. That's right. We had some California love from JB out there in San Diego, as well as Pretend Realism out there in Roseville, California. And we have a little bit of international flair from our good friend Frederick Rapp out in Gothenburg, Sweden, as well as Kenneth Thomason. Kenny in Osaka, Japan. Always glad to catch a live show. Keep up the great work. Go Bucs. Not sure what time it is, but it's not 4:30 Eastern time. That's for sure where you are.
No, thank you for watching. I don't know if we've had someone from Japan watching before.
I know.
Watching from Japan. I feel like we had like the Philippines before.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Japan. So shout out to you, Kenneth Thompson.
Absolutely. And Domo Arigato, Mr. Roboto. Tobias Stark, our good friend from Munich, Germany, watching from Munich, Germany. Sue had and probably still has such a huge influence on Vita Vea. Yeah, that's a great point. Can't thank him enough for his work and his influence. Let's go, Sue. Very well said. And then rounding out with another familiar face to the Pewter Report chat in Sao Paulo, Brazil, realtor David Zussman. I don't know if David, I think David's stateside, but he might be on vacation or work trip.
Yeah, who knows?
But appreciate you tuning in.
Yeah,
David,
thanks for watching.
as always. And then rounding out the show back in Florida, baby boy to demand Homestead, Florida, by way of St. Pete. So thank you all very much for taking part in today's roll call. We enjoy the chats with you guys, and we're going to be getting right into our preview of the quarterback and running back position in just a minute. But Matt, we've got a couple super chats.
Yeah, well, this first one kind of goes hand in hand with the quarterbacks. Monica Thompson, thanks for the $1.99 super chat, says, "How's my Baker Mayfield doing? I'm a Baker fan. We appreciate your support." I think Baker Mayfield's doing pretty well. He actually was just in Lake Tahoe for the American Century Championship. For those that don't know what that is, it's a celebrity golf tournament. So a couple NFL players, George Kittle was there, Tony Romo, former player, stuff like that. Looked like Baker had a great time. Out of 90 celebrities, Baker came in 83rd. So he didn't golf that well, but certainly had a good time. There was a funny video of him shotgunning a beer with a fan as well. So
that's a shocker.
Cool to see. Yeah. Cool to see Baker having a good time. He beat Jason Kelsey. So got that going for him. Yeah, beat nice. Jason Kelsey. Good. Aaron Rodgers played as well. Brian Urlacher, Derek Carr. So pretty good NFL representation. There were celebrities from other shows and sports and things like that. But yeah, Baker, I think, is doing great.
Yep, I agree.
Boulem Seba, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Says, what do you think about Charlie Heck? And is there any good replacement offensive tackle in free agency? How big is the impact of losing Tristan Wirfs starting the season?
I tell you what, I'm going to give Josh Capo a lot of credit because I read his article that you can read at 7:30 tomorrow. Hopefully I'm teasing this well for you guys. I feel better about Charlie Heck based upon the film work and the research that Josh has done. I think very similar player to Justin School. And Justin School didn't come to the Buccaneers as a finished product. Matter of fact, he made a tremendous amount of progress in his personal growth and development while he was here working with Kevin Carberry and Brian Picucci last year. He had his best season in the NFL from a pro football focus and pressure and sacks allowed standpoint. That Aiden Hutchinson game in week 2, notwithstanding. But I feel better about Charlie Heck after reading that. We're going to get a firsthand look at Charlie holding down that left tackle spot again in just over a week. And then in about 2 weeks, the pads come on. And that's really where we're going to be able to gauge this. And again, he has such a long run up to this job that I think that's really going to help him, where the typical swing tackle, when he has to come in, it's in-game, an emergency basis, and you get limited reps in practice. That's not going to be the case. Charlie Heck's going to get a ton of reps in practice, and I think he's going to be even more prepared, and hopefully his own personal growth and development as an NFL player, as an offensive tackle, takes flight under Carberry too. That's what the Bucs are hoping on and probably counting on, because there's not many good tackles that are out there. That's a position that is highly sought after. And that's why the Buccaneers are so high on Ben Chekwuma, Matt, and Pewter people. He is an up-and-coming guy who's really, really raw. He's not really going to be the answer this year, just due to his lack of experience, not just NFL experience. He's got a year and a half starting experience in football, period.
Yeah.
That was at Georgia State. So he's not the kind of guy you want to throw in there like the Bucs threw DeMar Dotson in back in the day. But you know what, Matt? The expectations for the teams that DeMar Dotson was on during that decade of darkness when the Buccaneers really weren't a contender, different times. This is a team that has a Super Bowl caliber roster, and you've got to go with some experience. Just not many good options out there on the street right now at tackle.
Yeah, there's one person I named on Thursday's show that I'll just bring up again real quick, and that's George Fant. He last played for the Seahawks. He had some starting time with the Jets, where he began the season at right tackle, then moved to left tackle due to other injuries along the offensive line. He has plenty of starting experience and coming off the bench as well. So a guy that you only need to start 3 or 4 games, who started at left and right tackle. I don't mind that option, again, for a depth option if something happens to Heck or Luke Gedeke as well. But thank you very much for the super chat. Keeping it rolling. Meets McGee, thanks for this $5 super chat. Says, I warned Bucs fans when Bruce got hired that the soft mentality that we had was going to be gone. What did they do? Got rid of McCoy and signed Ndamukong Suh.
That's true.
A little more badassery to them for sure.
They did. And the thing too with Suh, when you look at the overall impact, like for example, Ndamukong Suh did not make our list of top 50 Buccaneers, right? There's just so many different players to consider over 50 years. He was here such a short period of time. But you could say he made more of an impact for the franchise than Gerald McCoy did. But it's a little bit of a juxtaposition, because he wasn't here long enough to really establish himself in that particular realm, where McCoy was here for a decade and had 6 Pro Bowls, and you can't sweep that under the rug, even though he was not on a team that didn't win, that didn't make the playoffs, certainly didn't win a championship. McCoy was, I think he's third or fourth actually on the all-time leading sack list in Tampa Bay, behind Leroy Selman, Warren Sapp, and Simeon Rice. And that's not a small feat. That's a testament to.
Joe McCoy was a really good player.
Good player, right? And so, at the same time, the timing of Suh coming and McCoy leaving, because that's right around the time where McCoy's body started to break down. He had a good year in Carolina, but then the wheels fell off the wagon with stops in the Raiders and the Cowboys camps, and he went in injured reserve, and his body just kind of fell apart. That was part of the reason why Suh replaced McCoy, was because he had the ability to stay healthy. That was big.
Yeah, I mean, the conversation, discussion, argument about should Ndamukong Suh had number 93 or whatever, that's a completely different discussion. If it's should the Bucs have kept Gerald McCoy instead of Ndamukong Suh, clearly the Bucs made the right decision with Gerald McCoy's career essentially being done not long after, where Ndamukong Suh was still playing at a very high level. Maybe he wasn't in his prime like he was with Detroit or Miami, but he was certainly playing at a very high level. And again, the lasting impact that, the way that he brought along Vita Vea, and that's not to say that Gerald McCoy didn't either, but the way that he brought along Vita Vea, now Vita Vea can help bring along Kalijah Cansey and other guys. I think that impact will be, just as big for however long Vita Vea continues to keep playing too. Mike Wells, thanks for this $10 super chat.
Yeah, thank you.
Says, awesome show, guys. Really pumped for all the training camp coverage coming up. And I'm really excited to see Josh Williams in camp and the preseason. Think he could be a real gem. Also feeds us more Tucker early on.
Yeah, that's right. Well, let's dive into our quarterbacks and running backs preview.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little truncated because it's just two positions, and you're only going to have two quarterbacks on this roster and either 3 or 4 running backs. But let's dive into it. So the big storyline for Baker Mayfield is how well he's going to adapt to Josh Grizzard's system. And I think this is going to be pretty much Liam Cohen's offense with some more vertical aspects to it. And you know what? The vertical aspect may not take off in weeks 1, 2, or 3 if Tristan Wirfs is not there, because the further those throws down the field, the longer you have to hang in the pocket, the longer it takes those receivers to get down the field. So we might see more vertical aspect of this offense once Wirfs is back in the lineup, or certainly more shots down the field rather than what you might see early on. But Baker Mayfield has got to calibrate those deep throws with the Tez Johnsons, the Emeka Egbukas, the Jalen McMillans. Mike Evans, you just throw, as Jameis Winston found out, you just throw it up there and Mike's going to get it because he's 6'5" and he plays above the rim, right? And we'll see Chris Godwin, later, maybe not even in training camp, but at the start of the season. But I think this is really where Baker Mayfield has got to really kind of be more accurate with the downfield throws and really kind of get into rhythm, because we saw the deep shots that this team tried to hit with Trey Palmer, mostly under Dave Canales, and they never really were on the same page. Palmer had that speed and he got downfield, and the two just weren't really in sync. So I think that's really the biggest question that Baker Mayfield's going to have to answer, because he did everything else well last year. 71% completion percentage, 4,500 yards. This will be year 2 in this system, year 2 behind the same offensive line with the same weapons. So I feel pretty good about Baker. Well, actually year 3 with a lot of these guys, but I feel really good about Baker Mayfield in year 2 in this system, even though Grizzard's calling the plays.
Yeah, I'm very confident in Baker Mayfield. You certainly want to see the interceptions come down a little bit, because that bit him from time to time, but certainly not the way it did, earlier in his career before he came to Tampa Bay. I get the sense and I get the notion that, especially for the first month of the season, if the Bucs are going to be winning games, it's going to be a little bit of a grinded out type of process for the entire offense. Because let's remember, Tristan Wirfs aside and what you got going on there with the offensive line, it's not a guarantee that Chris Godwin is going to be playing week 1 or even week 2. So as you mentioned, recalibrate. I think you got to look at the big picture again with these wide receivers. Yes, Mike Evans is the GOAT. There's nothing to worry about with Mike Evans.
Right.
But I think we also have to remember Emeka Egbuka is a rookie who's going to be making his NFL debut. I'm not ultimately expecting him to come firing out of the gates and be sensational. Even Bucky Irving, who was a sensation in of himself, it took him a little bit before he really took over the league by storm. I hope Emeka Egbuka is an immediate brilliant draft pick and immediately has an impact on this team. But I'm just saying we might not see that exactly right away, just based on the growing pains of figuring out the NFL. Yeah. I think we saw that firsthand with Jalen McMillan as well. But, Jalen McMillan was a later round pick, where Emeka Egbuka is a first round pick. So that leads me to believe that the Bucs probably and should rely on that really good running game too, with Bucky Irving and with Rachaad White. So what does that mean for Baker Mayfield? One, I do think he is going to be running a good amount, just based on, again, what the situation is over at left tackle. But I don't think there's any shame in the Bucs just relying on that run game a little bit more, because it's a damn good running. So I think we might see, yes, you want to see the big splash plays, but if they aren't coming until a month into the season, I think you're going to see his passing yards dip a little bit. But I think he's going to bump up even more with the passing touchdowns that he had from a season ago. And that's just from understanding the offense, working with Josh Grizzard, and really having a feel for this team in the red zone as well. So I have all the confidence in the world. Baker can really do whatever he wants to do. But I think, again, the Bucs going into the season missing 2 big pieces that will affect the passing game in different ways, but affect the passing game. I don't know if the numbers, at least in the passing yards, will translate for Baker Mayfield. But if they're winning, hey, he's a winning quarterback, and that's right. What matters.
That's right. There'll be an interesting battle at number 2. Kyle Trask certainly is the leader in the clubhouse. He's got the trust of the organization for sure, and has certainly been in this system for quite some time. And he is coming off his best preseason. I mean, he had a great preseason last year that really, I think gave me more hope that this guy can actually be a player at some point in his career when he gets on the field. Hopefully is not in Tampa as Baker Mayfield continues to stay healthy. But we'll see a healthy dose of Kyle Trask. We might even see Kyle Trask versus Aaron Rodgers in that Pittsburgh game, right?
Yeah.
They've already met before. That was with the Jets a couple years ago when Rodgers, wasn't
also
playing.
joined training camp.
Yeah, that's right. And so Trask he's got the year's worth of experience in the system. He's got years worth of experience in the NFL. This is not his first training camp for sure. And again, coming off a good preseason, I'm anxious to see him continue to solidify himself as a really good developing quarterback in this system, especially because they might need him. But the other X factor is going to be Michael Pratt, who unfortunately missed the OTAs and the minicamp with an injury, an undisclosed injury, but he should be ready to go for training camp. I know this was a bit of a setback for him because he was really looking forward after being on the practice squad last year to really getting to be able to operate in the Bucs offense rather than run a scout team offense, which is what he ran because last year he was in training camp with the team that drafted him, the Green Bay Packers. Played in the preseason there, didn't make the roster, and the Bucs were happy to pick him up and put him on the practice squad. So he's a young guy with a lot of moxie and kind of maybe a poor man's Baker Mayfield in some respects. A good athlete, can move around, rushed for a lot of yards at Tulane, scored a lot of touchdowns, got better with each season in terms of his completion percentage. So we'll see. We'll see how that battle shapes up at the backup quarterback position. The Bucs also have in camp Connor Bazelak, who is probably in the running for the practice squad. And we'll see how that shakes out. But the running back room, Matt, when you look at Bucky Irving, he enters training camp as the starting running back. This team knows what he can do now, and we're going to see more Bucky Irving.
Yeah, I'm super excited that we get Bucky Irving from the get-go in week one of the regular season. Again, going against a team that beat them twice last year with the Atlanta Falcons. I think there's going to be even extra intensity and a little bit more of a chip on everyone's shoulder, including Bucky Irving, who, remember, fumbled late in that game against Atlanta on Thursday Night Football when the Bucs were on the road, and that played a part in Atlanta coming back and ultimately winning the game. It's tough to see a lot from the running backs at this time of the year when we had OTAs and mandatory minicamp a couple of weeks ago. But even with that being said, I was still able to see, as many of us, like just the pure vision that Bucky Irving has is so uncanny. And the way that he makes the first guy miss almost every single time, that's such a difficult thing to do, and he makes it look so easy. And it's not easy, but Bucky, you can almost set your watch to him making the first guy miss, getting to the second level, and then he's kind of off to the races. My only concern for Bucky Irving is, can he stay upright for an entire season? Because he's got that chronic toe injury, and he is a small guy. It's just tough when he's getting tackled by defensive tackles that are much larger than him and inside linebackers that are bigger than him too. Can he stay up for an entire season? I hope so, because he's got all the talent in the world. And I think if he does play 17 games, he's going to be a top 3 running back, in this league when it's all said and done. I am curious how much he will impact the passing game outside of just swing passes and screens. Can he pass block? But if he can't, that's where Rachaad White comes into play.
Yeah, I'd love to see him on some Texas routes too. Some of those angle routes coming out of the backfield where
the best plays in Madden.
Exactly. Yeah, you love that when he gets right behind the linebacker, because then guess what? When he catches the ball, he's already on the second level. He makes the safety miss, and he's off to the races till he gets caught from behind because he's not the fastest guy. But you can turn a 5-yard angle route into a 50-yard catch, and if you're on the other side of the 50-yard line, you might score a touchdown. So I'm curious as to see if Josh Grizzard is going to be incorporating him in a little bit more vertical routes rather than just the swing passes and screen passes. But one thing is for sure, Bucky Irving, he already knows the speed of the game. That was the adjustment last year as a rookie. He knows the speed of the game. I look for this kid to flourish. I'm with you, Matt. He stays healthy. Look out. I think look out for Rachaad White too. He is lean. He's mean. He's a fighting machine, and he's down to 212 pounds. He wants to get a tick faster. We saw that average really shoot up last year when the Buccaneers offensive line really gelled. They got to that gap scheme a lot more.
Yeah.
And he's in a contract year. And this is still going to be a 1-2 punch at the running back position. And we know what he can do as a third down back for sure. But Rachaad White is going to be out for the money this year. He wants to get as many stats as he can because he might be auditioning for another team in free agency next year.
Yeah, I still think of Rachaad White as like passing game first before I think about what he can do as a runner. But yeah, when they changed up their blocking scheme a little bit more, it certainly helped Rachaad White. I still want Rachaad White to just almost, when it comes to him running the football, don't think, just run, just hit the hole and figure it out from there. I still think that kind of impacts Rachaad White a little bit from time to time. But he's so graceful as a receiving running back. And I really hope Josh Grizzard utilizes Rachaad White where, first of all, I'd love to see a ton of the pony package still with Bucky and Rachaad White in the game together. But, don't be afraid, whether it's pony package or not, don't be afraid to line up Rachaad White out at wide receiver too and try to get like a better matchup in that sense. Because I think, he's a really good route runner. He can get great one-on-one opportunities when teams want to double Mike Evans or double Chris Godwin when he comes back and things like that. And I think Rachaad White can kind of be the guy that gets loose, gets free, and has some big plays. You need depth at running back. There's so many teams in the league where it's running back by committee. The Bucs are not exactly there. It's going to be Bucky, but you're still going to see a good amount of Rachaad White. I think Bucky's certainly more important, but Rachaad White is so valuable to this team. And if it is a swan song, I mean, why not go out with a bang? So why not go out with a great season in Tampa Bay? I think motivation is going to be through the roof for Rachaad White.
Totally agree. I'd love to see him start in the backfield and just flexed all the way out by the sideline. And I'd love to see a linebacker have to go all the way out there. And boy, you've got a real favorable matchup now on a vertical go route. I want to see a little bit more of that from Rachaad White. I think that's something that he can handle pretty well. Sean Tucker is probably, it's kind of like the hot chick who's a tease, like you're interested in her, you want to see more. And there's some wow factor there. And the thing is if on any other team, Sean Tucker would be getting more carries, getting more opportunities, breaking off more plays. It's just that he's got two really good running backs ahead of him. But that coming out party in New Orleans last year, and hey, Josh Grizzard was on the coaching staff last year. He saw it. He was witness to it.
Yeah.
That goes a long way. And I think that you even heard Todd Bowles say, and in that NFL annual meeting, we need to see more of Sean Tucker. And it's up to Josh Grizzard to figure out that three-headed monster, because this guy is a monster when he gets the ball in his hands. He is a big play waiting to happen.
Yes. He may have the most explosive playmaking out of the three running backs on this team. I'm such a supporter of Sean Tucker. I do want to see him more, but it's like at the expense of who? Right. You're not taking Bucky Irving off the field, and Sean Tucker hasn't proven it really as a pass blocking running back. He's got some receiving skills. He had a receiving touchdown against the Saints. If you're not going to mix them into the rotation, because you can't go like one drive Bucky, one drive Rachaad, one drive Sean Tucker, then back to Bucky. Like, you can't do that.
Right.
But I would love to see a situation where Sean Tucker kind of, certainly you'd love it for him to replicate what he did against the Saints. But when I say this, I mean, kind of comes into the game the way that he did against New Orleans, where he didn't have too many touches until the fourth quarter, but then they just kept feeding Sean Tucker and he became the closer. I would love to see Sean Tucker as the closer of this team, where, maybe he gets like two rushing attempts, like one rushing attempt in each quarter, really. But then the fourth quarter, when you have a little bit more of a tired Bucky Irving, a little bit more tired of Rachaad White, and certainly a tired defense, that's when you go with the fresh and healthy and ready to go Sean Tucker, and he becomes the home run hitter, but the closer at
just like New Orleans, baby.
Yeah, with some of those big runs, and you kind of catch a team off guard that hasn't seen this guy for the entirety of the game, and then bam, he hits the hole, he gets to that second or third level, and they're not able to catch him. One, because he's got that breakaway ability that Bucky and Rachaad White don't have, and two, defense is tired and they can't keep up with the speed of Sean Tucker.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other thing too that's great about Bucky Irving having such a great year last year was we don't need to see him in the preseason, right? We know what he can do. So you're going to be seeing a lot of Sean Tucker in the preseason as a result. And those carries that went to Bucky in the first and second preseason games, they're going to go to Sean Tucker. So we're going to see a lot of him. We're also going to see a lot of Josh Williams. And if you're not familiar with him, I did a Pewter Pulse video. He is the new undrafted free agent running back. This team is really high on. He is the super sleeper for the Bucs on offense. This guy's going to make some waves in training camp. He's already whetted the appetite of the coaching staff. Was in a running back by committee at LSU. He just has really good traits, can catch the ball exceptionally well. He can rip off some runs. He falls forward. Not the fastest guy. He's not a Sean Tucker, but he's more like a Bucky Irving, but bigger. He's 210 rather than 195. And really was one of the guys that impressed during the OTAs, the rookie minicamp even, and, of course, the mandatory minicamp. Good hands. You're going to see a lot of Josh Williams in the preseason getting some carries as well. And then, Matt, the other one, DJ Williams, who we saw rip off a big touchdown run in Jacksonville last year in the preseason. It got called back due to a penalty. You see Todd Bowles excited about that in the background. Skip P told me he likes this guy because he's a big back. And Rachaad White is the biggest running back that is on the active roster. This guy was on the practice squad last year. He's a banger at 6'2", 225, and they wanted to have another big body type in case they needed him for short yardage and goal line situations, in case something were to happen to Rachaad. They didn't need him, but he's going to get another look, and he's got another year in the system. So your thoughts on both the Williams, DJ and Josh, no relation?
Yeah, I was impressed by Josh Williams during OTAs and mandatory minicamp. Again, there's only so much a running back can do, but he definitely showed his catching ability. He's a little shifty as well.
Yeah.
Maybe not as fast as Sean Tucker, but I thought he had some good, pep in his step compared to some of the other running backs. And then DJ Williams, I thought, did a fine job in the preseason last year. He's a guy that you can kind of rely on now that he knows the system a little bit more. You're not likely going to see him in a regular season game unless everything hits the fan, really. But, I'm totally good with the Bucs keeping him on the practice squad. And then, hey, maybe they clinch the division in week 17 and they have a game in week 18 and he gets an opportunity because you're not going to play your starters and stuff like that. So, I mean, he's not going to make the active roster unless there's injury and stuff like that. Right. But I think he's a guy that you can trust in the preseason, make some plays, and Josh Williams can – maybe explode in one situation or another. So it's an encouraging group. There's no doubt about it.
It's a really talented group coached by a really good running backs coach in Skip Pete. And again, we're going to see a lot of both the Williams and we're going to see a lot of Sean Tucker in the preseason games. And that's exciting because these guys aren't just scrubs. They're not just, training camp fodder. They're legit good running backs, especially Josh Williams and Sean Tucker. And that's going to make some of these preseason games fun. This is going to sound weird coming from me, but it is kind of big news in the Tampa Bay area. Apparently, Stu Sternberg is going to sell the Rays to a group led by a Jacksonville developer. So there you go, baseball fans. So Rays getting sold as was expected, and hopefully their fortunes will turn around. We've seen that, it happened in football last year. Daniel Snyder gets out of the Washington Commanders ownership, and all of a sudden that franchise turns around with a new coach and a new front office and, of course, a new quarterback in Jaden Daniels. We are always excited about our Pewter Platinum members, and we greatly appreciate you guys, and you guys get the shout-out every show. Scott Federico, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zap Brannigan, RP89, Eric McMillan, Connor For Reals, Kevin Thomas, Mario Thomas, Zach Jarvis, Leighton Carter, The Guy Is Gifted, Brandon Riley, Alec Bicker, and Nick Dubuque. Thank you so much for being Pewter Platinum members.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate your support. If you want to help our efforts here at Pewter Report, the best way you can do so is to hit the subscribe button on Pewter Report TV. It's free. It's our YouTube channel. But you can also become a channel member. And with channel members, you get cool perks like custom emojis and loyalty badges for $3.99. That's our Pewter People membership. Pewter Pro members is $6.99. You also get early access to our videos. I have a new Pewter Pulse dropping tomorrow on Pewter Report TV. Check that out on Tuesday. Pewter Premier members, $9.99 a month. Get the loyalty badges, custom emojis, early access to videos, shout outs on our podcast, as well as exclusive access to our Pewter Insider shows that Matt and I do on Fridays at 1:30. Pewter Platinum members get all of that stuff, plus the annual Platinum member meetup in Tampa. This year we had Mike Greenberg and Zion McCollum attend. It was a blast meeting all of our Pewter Platinum members that attended. Plus you get some free merch. Find the fit that fits your best budget. And when it comes to your level of support, we greatly appreciate that. Again, we use our Pewter Report TV YouTube channel funds to send us on the road to places like Pittsburgh, where Matt Matera and Adam Slavon are going to be heading for those joint practices with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, that's right. Looking forward to it. We have one last super chat to get to from Mr. King. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Says, shorter QBs struggle with the deep shots unless you're Russell Wilson. I don't think Baker is an exception to that.
You know, that is, I think, a fair point. It is. Drew Brees, though, did have success as a shorter quarterback going downfield. That was not always a huge part of his offense there. When he had Slant Boy, Michael Thomas, it was mostly shorter stuff. But he did have some deep threats to throw the ball to, certainly back in the day. And, I think that, listen, if Baker was 6'5" or 6'6", it'd be easier to see over that offensive line, maybe be a little bit more accurate. But there's ways that you can work around that. There's ways that you can open up those passing lanes, get Baker on the move, rolling out, things like that. He's a really good thrower on the run, too. So
he is.
That's something to definitely keep an eye on. We're going to be keeping an eye on different positions that the Buccaneers are going to be having training camp battles and a lot of intrigue. Certainly wide receivers, one of those without Chris Godwin. We're going to get an extended look at Emeka Egbuka in training camp, as well as tomorrow, the wide receiver, tight end, and outside linebackers at 4 o'clock on Pewter Report TV. Defensive tackles, outside linebackers, and inside linebacker camp previews. Hassan Reddick, can't wait to see him in full pads. That's on Wednesday's show. Thursday's show will be cornerbacks, safeties, and special teams. Can Zion McCollum, Jamel Dean, can these guys get their hands on the ball and get some interceptions rather than pass breakups? Can Benjamin Morrison get to camp on time? He's still a holdout. All those second-round picks are just about. So that's what we have on tap for you this week on Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel.
Yeah, make sure you check all those episodes out, and make sure you're following us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video, too. Tell us who you're most excited about in that running back room, or what you think Baker Mayfield's going to do as the quarterback of the Buccaneers this season. This is a fun one. Great way to start off the week, and we'll try to be even better tomorrow. So until then, for Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.